How's the question for Hesh?
Okay, we're up to good to all. We're up to the Mishnah and Daf Tes on the days. We finished the first Mishnah and the sector up to the second. It also speaks about Metzia. However, no one thinks of it in the Metzia terms. We're going to have so much verbiage tonight that you remind of the yeshiva days, albeit with much less understanding tonight than we did in yeshiva, because we're going to be zoomed through it so quick. Or I should say, really no difference, but at least you thought you understood in yeshiva.
No, the difference is it's one night instead of 3 weeks.
That's the difference. Okay, says the Mishnah. A person's riding an animal. He sees a Metzia. He says to his friend, Tanoli, give it to me. Natla, he picks it up. And guys, this is an important Havamina. And when he picks it up, the Havamina of the Gemara is he's picking up for himself. Okay, the Havamina is he's picking up for himself. V'amar, he says, Anisa chisiba. Excuse me, Natla, he's picking it up for the other guy. Excuse me, guys, the exact opposite. If the person told him to pick it up, the assumption is he's picking up on behalf of the other person, right? Guys, that's the key. The assumption is he's picking it up in the hands of the other person. V'amar, and he says, Anisa chisiba, I am zeicha in it. Zachaba, he's zeicha in it. So let me foreshadow you the Gemara based upon the words we just said. He picked it up for his friend, and now he says he's zeicha, and it's becoming his. So what would you see from this din? Hamadbe mitzia lechaveroi. If someone picks up a mitzia for his friend, loy koine chaveroi, because he's being zeicha in it. He picked it up for his friend. So if he picked it up for his friend and he's zeicha for his friend, he can't go ahead now and say it's mine. So it must be that Hamadri Metzia Chavero is low Kona Chavero when he, the person who did Hagbah, picked it up, is Kaina. That's the key to understanding the first sugya. Good? Of course, it's subject to change and say when he picked it up for himself. And then you have the Raya. Okay? However, in Mishnah Naslaboy, if when he gave it over to him, Omar Anisa Chisi Batchila, I was liking it before, Layama Klum. So once he gives it to him, no matter what he says transpired before, it doesn't make a difference. Okay, so two cases. One, he's picking it up, not giving it to him and saying, I'm zeichen it. Second case, he picks it up, gives it to him, and says, I was zeichen it. In the first case, he taka is zeicha. In the second case, he's not. Okay, this is going to be the sugya of Hamagim Mitzir Lechaveri Koine Chaveri. Okay, Tanan Hassam. We learned over there, a Mishnah over there in Masechta Peah, Perek Daled Mishnah Tes. What does it say? Misha Likeres HaPeah. A person is going ahead what? And gathering Peah. He's gathering Peah, and what does he do? And he goes ahead, V'omar, Harizu Lipli Uni. He's gathering Peah, and he's saying this Peah belongs to this Uni. He's gathering Peah, and he's saying this Peah belongs to this Ani. So l'chayra, he's being zeicha for this Ani, right? Rabbi Eliezer says what? Rabbi Eliezer says he's zeicha for that Ani that he picked it up for. The Chachamim Maimrim Yitna la'ani anim tzurishon, and he has to give it over what to the first Ani. So this person is not his field, right? It's not his field. And we haven't ascertained yet if this person is shaykh to pay or not. We haven't ascertained whether this person is an ani or not. Again, ani being payer being one of the matnas aniyim. So if he's an ashir, when we say ashir, it means as opposed to an ani. If he's an ashir, he has no shaykhs to it. If he's an ani, he has shaykhs to it. Good. So now he's picking it up, and we have machlokes whether the ani he picked it up for is shaykh or not. Loite chachamim. Like Rabbi Eliezer, the ani he picked it up for is zeicha. Like the Chachamim, the ani he picked it up for is not zeicha. Them's the apples. That's the setup. Now, Amma Ula says Ula, Amma Yeshua ben Levi, the machlokes between Rabbi Eliezer that you're zeicha and the Chachamim that you're not is me'asher la'ani. If the person picking it up was roy to take payah. If he's an usher, meaning whether he was capable of taking pay or not. The Rabbi Eliezer Savar, Rabbi Eliezer is of the opinion, Migu di boy mafka nechase, v'have ani. If he would have gone ahead and been mafkias nechasim, he'd be shaykhis to ani, and therefore the payer would be his. So therefore, since the possibility exists for him to be mafker, migu, he could be mafker and become an ani. So now also we view him as an ani, and now a second migu, migu the zeichel nafshe, and now that what zeichel nafshe, he can be zeichel for himself. Migu the zeichel nafshe, he can be zeichel for himself. Zeichel name lechavre. He can also be zeichel for what? For his friend. Okay, let's go through the steps. Right. Let's go through one more din. Rabbanan Savri, Chad Migu Amrinon. One Migu we say, two Migu, two steps, Loy Amrinon we don't say. But from one ani to another, Migu the Zeichel Nafshe, Zeichel Nami L'Chavre. Okay, let's go over and outside and explain what we just said. So we have an individual, he's picking up for another for an ani, not for himself, he's picking up for an ani. Says the Chacham, says Rabbi Eliezer, the other ani is Zeicha. Says the Chachamim, they're not Zeicha. Okay, where's this machlokes? Whether this person himself is right to the payer. In order for this person to be right to the payer, if he's an usher, it's a two-step process. One, you have to say migu that he could become an ani by being mafker his property, and now I can take that for myself. That's one step. Step number two, and migu the zachil nafshe. Now that I can be zeicha for myself, zeicha nami lechavre, and therefore says Rabbi Eliezer, the second ani is zeicha with this two-step process. Says the Chachamim, there's one-step process over here, not two. If he's an usher, it's no migu zeicha nafshe. He can't. He's not zeicha. He's not entitled to it. If he's an ani, how to become an ani? The first step, which is what he could be mafka his property, but we don't say two miguyim. We don't see two miguyim. That is the machlokes. If, however, the individual himself is an ani, then it's a one-step process. Migu the zochel in nafshe, since he's an ani and it's right for him, he can be zeicha for himself. Zeicha nami lechabre, he can be zeicha for himself. So Ula says the whole machlokes in the Mishnah in the fourth parak in Peah is speaking when it's an usher picking up for an ani. But a regular ani for an ani, there is no machlokes. Everyone agree he could do it using the protocol of schia, being zeich for himself, zeich nami for his friend. That's what Ula says. Good. Now, is this have anything to do with hamag mitzil chaveroi koin chaveroi? You're picking this up, right? You're picking this up for somebody else, right? It's hefker. It's for the aniyim, it's hefker, and you pick it up somebody else at the expense of any other aniyim. So you really are being chavla acherim. You're really going ahead and costing other aniyim. By you picking it up for this fellow, right? You're costing other aniyim. Now, if you're zeicha for yourself, meaning you're taking for yourself, like we said in the previous daf, in daf ches, then it's not a problem of migu the zeichel nafshi zeichel a problem of hamag mitzil chaver kon chaveroi. Hamag mitzil chaver means when I'm picking it up solely for the other individual at the expense of others. When I myself am with two guys are picking up the Metzia. Remember, guys, two guys are picking up the Metzia. He's getting part of it, right? He's getting part of it. Since I'm getting part of it, I can be zeicha for him. It's chavla acherim. We don't say migu. I might say why? Because I'm not picking it up only for him. I'm picking it up for myself and him. Over here, however, he's not picking it up for himself. Here he's picking up solely for the other ani. So we have to take into account, one second, if hamag mitzil chaver or not. So I'm just introducing the sugya to you. Okay? Be that as it may, says Ula, our Mishnah, that Mishnah in Peah is speaking me ashal ani. But if it's on ani ani, there is no machlekes. Amalei Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman said to Ula, V'lei mamar me ani ani machlekes. Why don't you say the machlekes is me ani ani? And it's going to make more sense as we're going to see in a second. Why? The Metzia hakol aniyim etzla. Guys, by Peah, it's hefker for who? Not everybody, only aniyim. Metzia, everyone's an ani, right? A Metzia, everyone. There is no parsha of asha ani. Vis-a-vis Metzia, it's hefka l'kol. So it's anilani, correct? Right? It's anilani. Hefka, it's mufka for everybody. So now, v'tanan, hayeroichiv al gabe behema, a person's riding on an animal. V'roas Metzia, our Mishnah, he sees a Metzia. V'am l'chaveiroi, tanali, give it to me. Now again, the havamina is he's picking it up for the guy in the horse. Natla, he takes it. V'omar anisa chisiba, I'm zeichen it. Sachaba, he's zeichen it. Even though he picked it up for the guy in the horse, he's picking it now, he's zeichen it. Now, very good if you're going to tell me ani is machlokes that Rabbi Eliezer holds ani that you could pick it up for the other guy and he can keep it. That's fine. The Rabbanan says if you pick it up for the other guy, you cannot keep it. Right? If you pick it up the ani for the other guy, ani you can't keep it. So that's our Mishnah. Ani la'ani, you picked it up for. Ostensibly, you picked it up first you picked it up for the other guy, and he can't keep it. So maslisan money. Who's the Tana of the Mishnah in? Who's the Tana of our Mishnah? It's the Rabbanan. Again, our Mishnah is a case of ani to ani, guys. Our Mishnah is a case of ani la'ani. This person is picking it up for the other guy, and the Chacham say you can't keep it. Good. So also the Mishnah and where do you get the ani la'ani? You get it from the Mishnah in Peah, where Rav Nachman is suggesting now the machlokes is even me ani la'ani. If you're going to tell me the Mishnah in Peah is only speaking where the person himself can't be zeicher in it, but avo me ani la'ani divya kol zeicha. But if one ani picks up another ani, everyone holds his zeicha. Hamani loy rabbanon. It's not the Rabbanon and not Rebbe Eliezer. Guys, why? Let's look at our Mishnah. Our Mishnah, guys. He's on the horse. He tells, look, that Metzia, pick it up for me. He picks it up for him. He picks it up for him, right? May ani la'ani, who should get it? Who should get it? The guy on the horse. Ma'ani la'ani, everyone has shaykhs to this Metzia. He picks it up for the guy on the horse, yet who's getting it? He is. You know why? Because the Chachamim hold, may ani la'ani, the second ani doesn't get it. So here too, the second ani doesn't get it. I mean, in this case, the guy on the horse is the second ani, because he picked it up for him. But if you're going to tell me that may ani la'ani, everyone holds, it goes to the second guy who he picked it up for. So over here also, it should go for the second guy, for the guy on the horse that he picked it up for. And yet, our Mishnah says it doesn't go to the guy on the horse. It goes to the one who picked it up. Says Rav Nachman, the way you're learning Ulam, I don't have a Tana of our Mishnah. Okay, that's a lot of words, right? One more time. We're correlating the Mishnah in Peah to our Mishnah here, where someone is picking it up for somebody else, and that somebody else, there's a machlokes if that somebody else is zeicha or not. Says Rabbi Eliezer that somebody else is zeicha. Says the Chacham they're not zeicha. In our Mishnah over here, you're picking it up for somebody else, and that somebody else is not zeicha, right? Guys, you're picking it up for somebody else, and that somebody else is not zeicha. Our Mishnah is speaking one ani to another ani. What does it mean? That each person has shaykhs to this hefker because it's a Metzia. Each person has shaykhs to this hefker because it's a Metzia. Good? Now, our Mishnah says unequivocally, the person who he picks it up for is not being zeicha. So it must be that if you're going to correlate it to the Mishnah in Peah, it must be the Chachamim, who says if you pick it up for that ani doesn't get it. Now, if you're going to tell me the machlokes is by Asher ani, but by ani ma'ani, everyone's moida, you do get it, that meaning the guy in the horse gets it, we don't have a Tana in the Mishnah. We don't have anybody, right? If it's ani la'ani, that means the guy in the horse gets it because you picked it up for him. Just like you took the Peah for this guy, so too you took the Metzia for the guy in the horse. Yet our Mishnah says you don't get it. So it must be, says Nachman, the machlokes is afilu ani la'ani. It must be even for one ani to an ani, says the Chachamim, you don't get it. And therefore, the guy in the horse doesn't get it. Okay. This is predicated upon the understanding that when the guy picked it up, he picked it up for the guy in the horse. There's another way to learn. When he picked it up for himself. In that case, there's no shaykhis to the Mishnah in Peah whatsoever. Mishnah Peah clearly is picking up for the other guy. Over here, you know what's happening? The guy in the horse says, look at that iPhone lying in Mr. Sarab and pick it up for me. And the guy says to himself, what a novel idea. What a great idea. So what does he do? He picks it up for himself. Therefore, he's liking it, right? He's screwing the other guy. Okay. So be it. Yes, Dov.
Isn't it just then it's like a question of Metzia. You have to ask the guy when you picked it up. Did you pick it up for the guy on the horse or you picked it up for yourself?
I don't think, when it says, obviously the guy said that he's Zeicher boy, he's going to say he picked it up for the other guy. He's not going to say I picked it up for the other guy. He's saying I'm a Zeicher in it. We're learning Pshat in those words. Einachinami. If he says he picked it up for the other guy, it would be Nichlis in the Machlokes. But we're learning Pshat in the Mishnah where he didn't pick it up for the other guy. That's Pshat in the Mishnah. We want to look. You have a problem in our Mishnah, Dov, right? You want to know who's the Tana of the Mishnah. You don't have a Tana. Guess what? You do have a Tana because it has no correlation whatsoever to the Mishnah in. Because everyone will be minded, this is not a case of Mag Metzia L'Chavero, guys. This is Mag Metzia for yourself. Okay, so says the Gemara, very geschmack. Amalei, so Ula said to Rav Nachman, Masnisan, our Mishnah, the Amar Tchila, where he said the Amar Tchila that he picked it up for himself. When he said Anisa Chisiba, meaning I never was Zeicha for the guy in the horse. I was Zeicha for myself. I was never Zeicha for the guy in the horse. I was Zeicha for myself. Look at Rashi. The Amar Tchila, Hay Anisa Chisiba, the Kamar, Tchila Kamalei. Mitchila, initially, he baktil it sarchai. I picked it up for myself. Not for you. Had I picked it up, though, for you, it would be yours. That would be case domi de ani lani. So says Ula, you're right. Ani lani divyakol. Everyone would agree. Right, and therefore the ani by pay would get it, and here the guy in the horse would get it. But here it's not doimet because he didn't pick it up for the guy. He didn't pick it up for the second guy. He picked it up for himself. So it's not similar to that Mishnah. Hachanami mistabra, to say that he picked it up for the guy for himself, the Tani, Seifa. The Seifa says in the Mishnah, if when he gives it to the guy in the horse, he says to him, I was like in the Tchila, now, obviously, if he had it in his possession and now he's saying, I was like, who cares? He already gave it to the guy. So obviously the Tchila in the latter part of the Mishnah is totally extraneous. Everyone needs to. I was saying first. You gave it to the other guy? Who cares what you? Once you gave it to the other guy, you gave it to the other guy. So the word tchila is extra. Ela tchila b'seifel lamali pshita. Afagab lo yom tchila tchila kamar. Even doesn't say tchila. Obviously, he picked it up for the other guy because he's saying anis achisiba. Ela lav hakamash malon. Reisha dama tchila. Reisha says tchila. In other words, the tchila. Look back in the Mishnah, guys. And he picked it up for himself. The guy picks it up for himself. Not when he gives it. If he picks it up and says, I was zeicher in it, he's zeicher in it because he picked it up for himself. However, in Mishnah, once he gives it to him, now obviously, if he gives it to him, guys, once he says anisachisiba, obviously what? He picked it up for himself, correct? So what does the word tchila mean? See the word tchila there? What does the guys? What's the word tchila doing over there? Obviously, it's anisachisiba, he was zeicher, right? So that word tchila says Ula, that tchila in the safe is extra to tell me the Reish is also speaking about tchila. So it's not doimet tuat to the case of ani la'ani because he picked it up for himself. The case of pay is speaking where he picked it up for the other guy. Very geschmack. And ve'idach and Rab Nachman says what? That it's speaking where he picked it up for the other guy, for himself, for the other guy. Tani sefer legluya reisha. Sefer dama tchila. Dafkin the sefer is speaking where he picked it up for himself. Reisha d'layam tchila. Reisha is speaking where he didn't pick it up for himself, but he picked it up for the other guy, and therefore you have to say the Mishnah speaking. Yeah, machlokes between the Chachamim and Rabbi Eliezer in Peah is also la'ani la'ani. Rav Chisda damit Shabayu, Rav Nachman and Rav Chisda, they both have the opinion. Hamagbi Metzia l'chaverei loy koin chaverei. If you pick something up for his friend, you're not koina. My timer. Hafi toifus lebal choy b'makam shechav lacherim, but toifus lebal choy b'makam shechav lacherim loy koina. This person owes the other person money. You go ahead and pick it up for the other person. He has another balchov. You have no right to go ahead and pick it up for balchov A at the expense of balchov B. You're picking up a Metzia at the expense of everybody else. You don't have a right to do that. That's why Hamag Metzia Chaveri, Loi Koine Chavero. That's the opinion of Rav Chisda and Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman and Rav Chisda. However, Esrei Rav Nachman, who holds Hamag Metzia Chaveri, Loi Koine Chavero, Metzias Poyel La'atzmoi, a Poyel who's working, right? And he finds something. He's working for somebody and he finds something. Who gets the Metzia? It goes to himself. The male, let's qualify it. The man, let's go to himself. Bisman shoy maloi balabayis nochashimi hayoim. Weed with me today. Other imi hayoim. Oh, with me today. Avaloi maloi yasei imi malachasi and work for me the whole day. Mitziyas shalabayis belongs to the balabayis. In other words, so if he's when he's not weeding, he finds a mitzvah. That's good because he's specifically doing that job. But if it's a day worker the whole day, then the whole day belongs to the balabayis, and therefore the mitzvah would belong to the balabayis. So. So what do you see from over here? Hamag mitzil chaveiroi, koine chaveiroi, right? Guys, he's picking it up, right? He's picking it up. He's picking it up in the whole day, right, fellas? Who's he picking it up for? He's picking it up for the balabas. And who's koina? The balabas. It's at the expense of everybody else. So you see, Amag Mitzvah Chaveroi, koina Chaveroi. Kasha Rav Nachman Rav Chisda, who says like koina. And for the Gemara, shiny poil the other balabais. It's like the balabais pick it up himself. In other words, it's different than a regular person. A regular person who picks it up for somebody is like koina. A day worker works the whole day. His hand is like the hand of the balabais. The Omar Rav, the Omar Rav, I think I want to change the gears over here. It's a kasha. The Omar Rav, Poil Yochel Achsabei Afilu B'Chatzi Hayoim, right? Poil is able to return even half the day. So you see that he's yad. If he can go ahead and quit the job, how can you tell me his hand is like the hand of Balabayas? Amalei, Kol Kama D'Lei Hadabei, as long as he hasn't gone ahead and changed his mind, Kia Balabayasu. In other words, you're right. He could change, but as long as he doesn't change, it's clear Balabaya. So therefore, this is not a case of Magbi Mitzia Chaveroi. It's Hamagbi Mitzia. It's a guy picked up a Mitzia. But when he does change his mind, it's not because his hand was like hands Balabayas. In other words, you might think that he can change his mind because his hand is not like the hand of the Balabayas, and therefore he can change. That's not the reason. Really, his hand is like the hand of the Balabayas, but there's a different meaning. He's Mishubah to Balabayas up to a point. But when can he change? Because it says Kli b'nei Yisrael avodim. And we dashin avodayhem v'lei avodim l'avodim. They're my avodim and they're not avodim l'avodim. So therefore, the challenge to Rav Nachman Rav Chisda of a Mag Mitzvah Chaveru Loi Koine Chaveru is deflected. Rav Chia Barab Rav Yochanan Hamag Mitzvah Chaveru Koine Chaveroi. Rav Chia says the name that Rav Yochanan, someone lifts up the hands of is Koine Chaveroi. The Toima Mishnah Seinu. Oh, guys, what about our Mishnah? Hamag Mitzvah Chaveroi is l'chayis mashma that what loy koine chaveroi, because he's picking it up what for his chaver, and his chaver is what he's not zoicha, right? He says the Amar Tanali v'yamazachali. He said, give it to me, and he didn't say to be zoicha for me. So if he had picked it up, einachinami Hamag Mitzvah Chaveroi koine chaveroi, he would be zoicha, but he never said be zoicha for me. He said pick it up and give it to me. That he had in mind to be koine it when he receives it, not when the guy picked it up, because he said the lashon of tenali. He didn't say be zoicha for me. He didn't say be zoicha for me. And Chinami, had he said be zoicha for me, in this case where he picked it up and said tenali, he's megala that when does he want it to come to his jurisdiction? When it's given to him, and therefore it's not a case of says the Mishnah. Again, these Mishnahs guys. Packed. This Daf Yomi is like, I mean, I remember it's unbelievable. You'll see again, even if you haven't learned in many years, the recollection of these terms. Obviously, you spend so much time on it, right? These are terms that resonate in somewhere in the schema of your brain. Says the Gemara, Ro'asa Metzia. Enough all that. A guy sees a Metzia, what does he do? He runs and he jumps on it. It's like a fumble. He jumps on it, if you can understand football, and the ball squirts free, So despite the fact that he jumped on it, another guy comes along, it's machzik, boy, he rips it away from him, right? Now the ref see who has the ball. So the one who's machzik and is in it. Good. That's the case. No Rashis. Amar Reish Lakish, says Reish Lakish, Mishum Abba Koyin Bardlo, in the name of or of Kahana or Kahana Bradla, Arba Amish Shalom Koinisli. The Chachamim were metakin Arba Amis. If you have a Metzia and your Arba Amis, it belongs to you. If you have a Metzia and your Arba Amis, it belongs to you. B'chol Makan. Arba Amish Shalom Koinisli B'chol Makan. My time at the Kinu Rabbanon, why the Rabbanon metakin Arba Amis? Loyasi Lan Suya, that you should avoid fights. In other words, it's in my proximity of 4 Amis, right? Guess what? 4 Amis, it could be 8 feet, or it can be 4.5 feet, whatever it is. Let's see, 6 feet. Anyway, so wherever it is, it's within that jurisdiction, it's going to be mine. Good? That's the din. In other words, we introduced this din, and obviously we're going to get from the Mishnah on this din. Amar Abaya, Moisei Reb Chia bar Yosef Peya. Reb Chia bar Yosef questioned this din of Dal Amis from a Mishnah in Peya. And Amar Rava, Moisei Reb Yaakov bar Idi Nizikin. And Yaakov bar Idi, he asked from Nizikin. So depending where they were, they questioned. Amar Abaya, Moisei Reb Chia bar Yosef Peya. He asked from Peya. Natal mixes Peya. This oni goes ahead and he takes Peya. It's his now. And he wants to be kind of more Peya. The Zoika ala Shari takes the Peya that is his and he throws it on the rest of the Peya with the meaning that it should be Zoika in everything. Ein lebak klum, he has nothing. He loses even the Peya that he had. He loses even the Peya that he had. Nafal aleha, if he falls on the Peya, Horis taliso aleha, or he spreads some type of garment on the Peya, Mavir and we take it away from him. We take it away from him. The chayin bo'im is shikha, also by standing shikha with the same din. If you can tell me the arba amis of a person's kind of any place, nikdule arba amis today. So why? Just the fact that he's standing there and it's within his jurisdiction and his dal amis, let him be kind of. Why is he losing it? Why do you tell me that he's not doing a proper kinyan? He's throwing something on it, or he's throwing the payer on it, right? Whatever the reason is that he's losing it, they cancel him, they don't cancel him. The chayra, it's a moot point. Once he's within 4 amis, it's in his jurisdiction. If the chachamim made a takana of arba amis, it automatically should be his. That's the challenge to the din of Rav Reish Lakish, who said in the name of Rav Arba Koyin Bardala, there's such a din of 4 amis. And for the Gemara, I'll tell you about the answer. Hachamay askinon lo yoma akni. He didn't say that his dollar amis should be koyin. In other words, this oni, he wanted to use another mechanism to acquire by throwing the grain on, throwing his paya on the other paya, or by spreading a talus on it or falling on it. So he was megala that he doesn't want this to work. Says the Gemara, big deal. Keeping the nafal. So who cares? Who cares what he thinks? What's the answer? Keeping the nafal gully. He shows the menafila nichlei the nicknei arba amis nichlei. In other words, you can mess it up. What is arba amis, guys? Arba amis is the way the chachamim want to avoid a fight. So if they place it in your jurisdiction, by you doing something, you're saying, I don't want my arba amis. By jumping on it, or by throwing something on it, or spreading something on it. Either way, what you're doing over there is showing I don't want my arba amis to acquire from me. Einachinami. Arba amis would have worked if he didn't mess it up by going ahead and doing something else. Him doing something else was megala. It revealed that he didn't want his arba amis to work. So that was the challenge from what? From Peya. Rav Papa Amar Amid Beis, Kita Kinole Rabbanon Arba Amis, Be'alma, Besada the Balabayas Lo Takinon Le Rabbanon. In other words, Rav Papa is saying a different teretz. It's not Peshat he messed up at his Arba Amis. He never had Arba Amis. In other words, according to the first teretz he was giving was that the first teretz that they gave was there is Arba Amis, but he messed it up by saying I don't want it to work. Rav Papa is saying there's nishkain Arba Amis. There's no Arba Amis. Arba Amis was made in Rishus Harabim in a public area. It wasn't made in a private sada. Why? Even though the Chachamim, the Torah allowed these aniyim to go in the field, and the Zoicha to have a jurisdiction in the field to go ahead and be kind of peya, to walk in the field, and to gather peya. The Torah never gave him what that should have right over there. So the Chachamim, they were not mitakin David Amis in the field. So your challenge from Peah is not a good challenge, either because you messed up, there is Dalit Amis and you messed it up by showing you don't want it to work, or there wasn't Dalit Amis in the first place and you had no option but to make an other type of kinyan. Why? Because they didn't go make Dalit Amis in the field of what says the top Rashi, Ki Tatkinu Rabbana Ma'alma, you're going besimta on the sides of Rishus Rabim. Shu Rishus L'Chaladam. That's a public jurisdiction. Oy Rishus Rabim. Oy B'tzidei Rishus Rabim. V'hi Hefkel Rabim. Limshech L'Toichai Hat Tzrichin. And it's public area and Hefka for the Chacham, for the people that the Chacham said you can pull anything into that area. Latzes Minad Chak. Getting off the main thoroughfare, you go to the shoulder, the side of the road, and that side of the road, they were talking that you would have 4 amas over there. But in a public field where in a field that everyone can come into, that we didn't give you rishus. That's a Rapapis teretz. Another teretz now, that was the Mishnah question from the Mishnah in Peah. Now we have a question from the Mishnah in Nezikin. Moiser of Yaakov bar Idi Nezikin. Roas Metzia, our Mishnah, you see a Metzia, the Nafalo Leha, and you jump on it. Ubach vehichsikba comes along another individual, he's maxing it. The one who's maxing it, and he's the one that's zeiching it. The Amid Arba Amis Shaladam Kainis Lebechal Makon Niknule Arba Amis Day. Hey, by the guy jumping on it, it was in his Dalit Amis. So why is the person who's machzik get it? The one who jumped on it should get it. Now, obviously, you can get the same teretz he had before, right? Says the Gemara, he didn't say it. The Gemara is saying, and for the Gemara is saying teretz, my hava. So good. The bottom line is the Chad made a takana. Why did he have to go ahead and say anything? Says the Gemara, keep the nafal, since he jumped on the object, Goli died him. And the fila nichale the nickname barbamis nichale the nickname. The same teretz. Okay. Now we have a similar teretz. Rav Sheshus Amar kita kin rabbanim besimta like dachet rabbim on the sides where the rabbim aren't pushing along. Rishus rabbim the kadachet rabbim like the kin rabbanon. So this mitzvah, the assumption is what it's in Rishus rabbim. In other words, to have Dalit Amis, guys, it has to be your possibility that you're the only person in that area. When you have a public domain and everyone is jostling back and forth, you don't have a Gnoi area that's yours. So therefore, they weren't mitaken Arba Amis. So this Metzia seems to be in Rishus Rabim, and he jumped on in Rishus Rabim, and the fact Gemara let him Dalit Amis b'kaina. That area, there's no Dalit Amis. That area, just like the Rapapis teretz above in the field of the Balabos by Peah, there's no Dalit Amis. Who did by Metzia in Ezekiel by Mishnah in Rishus Rabim? There's no Dalit Amis. It says they said they made Dalit Amis b'chol makoim. It says no kamakom asiyit tzidei Rishus Rabim. It's the sides of Rishus Rabim. I'm not exactly sure the difference between Simta is type of valley, tzidei Rishus Rabim. Both are on the sides. Both the Simta is like a valley, alleyway on the side, and the tzidei Rishus Rabim. Both of them on the sides. Where again, a person by standing there, has his own jurisdiction. V'amrei shlokish mishum abba koyin bargala. Okay, now since we mentioned above something, this person, the Gemara brings something else, which seems to have a lot to do with this inyan. It's the same topic. Just like Arba Amis is koina law, we know a person is chotzer is koina for him. Now, there's a very, interesting lumdis mind chotzer. How does chotzer work? Does chotzer work like mitam shlichus, or does it work mitam yad? In other words, do I view a chotzer as an extension of myself, or do I view a chotzer as a shliach of myself? That seems to be the big raid. Do I view a chotzer as a shliach of myself, or do I view it as an extension of myself? There's a shittus, a riff, I remember correctly, who says by Ganef it works like one, and by Metzia it works like other. Yeah, okay, whatever. I don't remember it clearly, but I remember I asked the question, the mirror-based medrash based on Mishnah Zayrik, Gemara. What do you need? Tzrichasa. Okay, good marmokim is in Choshen Mishpat, the Psicha of Simon Reish. There's in the Sivis. If you're really interested, it's very geschmack. The Sivis goes into this inyan of the Rif Shita. In one place it's mitam yad, in another place it's mitam shlichus. What about a cotton? Guys, what about a cotton? Is there a chutzah for a cotton? Does the cotton have shlichus? Can a cotton make a shliach? Does the cotton have a yad? He does. So depending upon whether you hold chatzis mitam shlichus layad, you'd have the din of a cotton. This is what the Gemara says right now. Katana, cotton or katana, ein la chatzer, vein la arba amis. So in other words, if you're divorcing a katana, you're married to a katana, and you want to divorce her, she doesn't have chatzer, she doesn't have arba amis. Rabbi Yochanan mishum yani yama yesh la chatzer, yesh la arba amis, she has both. The Maikamif, the Masav chatzer mishum yadis Rabbi. Rabbi Yochanan is of the opinion in the name of Yanai that a chatzer is mishum yad, and therefore, just like a katana has a yad, she has a chatzer. Kihechi dis la yad chatzer nami yisla. Umasavar. And Reish Lakish is of the opinion. Reish Lakish is of the opinion is chatzah mishum shlichus is rabbi. Chatzah works on shlichus. Hechi the shlichus lesla chatzah nami lesla. Like she doesn't have shlichus, she doesn't have a chatzah. Fred the Gemara Nika man the Amar chatzah mishum shlichus is rabbi. Is the man the Amar that chatzah works on shlichus. Vatanya. It says in imatzi timatza by the ganef. It says imatzi timatza biyadai hageneva mishara chamor asher asam l'chaim shnayim mishalim yipei kefal biyadai ein li'ela yadai. Only if it's found in his jurisdiction, in his hand, are you chayiv kefil. Gagoi, how do you know if it's found on his roof, chatzeroi, or in his chatzer, the karfifoi, or in his back lot, his backyard, minayin? How do you know you be chayiv kefil if you find it in those areas? Tamad leimer, himatzei timatzei b'chol makom. V'yisal kadaita, chatzah mishum shlichus is rabbi. If you can tell me, guys, chatzah is mishum shlichus, and kein Metzia shliach l'devar aveira, the kaim lo nein shliach l'devar aveira. Okay, we had the sugya of in yesh shliach levar aveira, in shliach levar aveira. If I tell you to go kill somebody, kill someone, you're chayiv, right? You're chayiv, and why? Because in shliach levar aveira, divrei Rav, divrei Talmud, divrei Misham. And the words of Hakadosh Baruch Hu says, "Don't kill." The words of right. I told you that very cute word from Rabbi Yonis Abishitz. Did I tell you that very cute word from Yonis Abishitz about yesh shliach levar aveira, in shliach levar aveira? Well, if I did, if not, it's worthy. Right? It's Ada now, right? So one of the geniuses and famous geniuses in Jewish lore is Rabbi Yonis Eibeshitz. Genius is not the word. He's just super genius. So you can imagine in yeshiva he was a challenge to a Rebbe. He was this really kid who was really involved, and he was like busy. And one day he's riling up the kids, and everyone's singing and dancing in the classroom. And the Rebbe says, "Keep quiet down." Not quieting down. Because Yonis, quiet down. That's not quieting down. Because Yonis, why aren't you quieting down? He goes, Rebbe, I don't have to listen to you. Because why? So he goes, Mishenichnas Adam Mabrim B'Simcha. The Rebbeinu Shalom tells him I'm supposed to be B'Simcha. You're telling me not. Divrei Rav, Divrei Talmud, Divrei Mishaymin. Who do I have to listen to? Right? So you don't have to listen. Anyway, this Rebbe story was not going to get anywhere. So he decided he's going to go to Rav Nosson Eibeshitz, who was the Rav of the town, and happened to be Rabbi Yonison's father. So calls him, goes down and says, "Listen, your son's not listening." He goes, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Not listening." So he goes, "I can't believe it." Anyway, comes to yeshiva, and the place is, they're cooking, the guys are singing and dancing. And he walks in, and the place is quiet. So he comes to his father, says to him, "Yeah, so what are you doing? Why don't you listen to the Rebbe?" And he tells him his Torah, So he goes, "So then why are you listening now?" He goes, "Mishenichtes av mimatim b'simcha." It's great, right? I thought I shared that with you. Anyway, it's great. So anyway, so how do I get into this? Yeah, yesh shliach levar aveira, right over here. So
the shliach is not a person. The shliach.
Yeah, okay. We're gonna get to the teretz avi. There's obviously lukim, but again, so the Gemara's kasha is, if chatzah b'tam shlichus, how could it being in my chatzah be mechayev me, right? That I'm being chayev as a ganef l'chayra al shlichus ain't shliach levar aveira. So I'm Ravina. Heicha mina ain't shliach levar aveira. When do we say what? Ain't shliach levar aveira. Heicha the shliach bar chiyuvahu. That's where the shliach himself is a bar chiyuv. Al b'chatzah la bar chiyuvahu. A chatzah is not a bar chiyuv. It's right. Then mechayev shluchai, then mechayev the shalchot. So then the shalchot, meaning in this case the ganef, would be chayev. So again, chatzah could be mitam shlichus. Yataina of ein shliach levar aveira. When do we say that? That's when the person himself is in the ballpark. When a person himself is not in the ballpark, he's not about chiyuv, then we don't say it. El me'ata ha'oimel isha ve'eved tz'u gonvuli. We sell to an isha and eved, go steal from me. The lav b'nei chiyuv ininu. Rashi Kidetnan, Haim Shechavru B'Acherim Peturim, from Baba Kama. We said, Eved V'Isha Pigiyosan Ra, meeting up with them and why is not a good thing. Why? Because if you damage them, you got to pay. If they damage you, they don't. So the Gemara's Havmin is not about Chiyuv. So if you would send them to do an Aveira, then what? Then you should be Chayiv, because they're not about Chiyuv. So Hachanami, you're going to say the Mechayiv Sholchan, you're going to Chayiv the one who sent them? Amri, 1 second. Ishav ever b'nei chiyuva in it. They are b'nei chiyuva. Why don't they pay? Because they don't have what to pay. V'hashtamiya less the l'shlume. They don't have what to pay. Ditnan niskarsha isha if the woman's divorced. Nishtachra eved if they're b'svi chayav m'shalim. So it's not pshat and not chiyav. Pshat is they don't have what to pay. Masha'en came what by chatzar is out of the ballpark totally. Rav Saba Omar Heicha Amina Nishlech V'Araveri. He gives another reason. So one reason was given by. Who said it? Ravina. Ravina said, what? They're not b'nei chiyuva. Rav Sama says, Heichad amina inshtich v'aravera, heichad the boy ovid, the boy loved. They had a choice. Al Chotzer, the Bal Korche, Chotzer didn't have a choice. It's against his will. Right. Meisav Ba, against his will, was placed in it. Mechayiv Shol Chai, the one who went ahead, the Ganef is Chayiv. So again, two possible reasons. One, whether you're b'nei chiyav. Two, whether you had a choice. In this case, the Chatzah obviously doesn't have a choice, doesn't have a chira. My binayu, what was the difference between Ravina's b'nei chiyuv and Rav Saba's no choice? My binayu, it could binayu, koyin the amalai Yisrael, a koyin that says to Yisrael, say v'kadosh li isha gerusha. Go be mekadosh me a divorcee. Now we all know that a koyin can't marry a divorcee, and the guy goes there as Mekadesh. Who's Chayev? So, in that case, who would be Chayev? So, according to Ravina, he's not a Bnei Chiyuv. He's not a Bnei Chiyuv. According to he had a choice to do it or not to do it. He would be Chayev. According to Rav Sama, you'd be Chayev. According to Ravina, you'd be Pata. Because Ravina is not a Bar Chiyuv. He doesn't have to marry what? He doesn't. For him, it's not an Aveira. Masha'en came, if you have a choice to do or not to do it, you be chayav. Inami ish the amar leila isha achvile cotton lahachlish lahachvile cotton. Go ahead and be makif the cotton. So a woman is out of the ballpark of one of the laughing we saw in Kedushin. The woman is not in the din of hakafa, and therefore of cutting off the payas, rounding off the hair, and you go ahead and do it. Lishna lachlish the amar kol hekadi boy avidi boy loy avid loy mechayiv sholchay. According to the man, the Amar, we won't be mechayiv the one who sent him, right? Like they won't be chayiv. According to Saba, we won't be mechayiv the one who sent him because they had a choice to do it or not do it. Hakanami boy avidi boy loy avid loy mechayiv sholchan. Lahachnishna dama kolech l'shliach laben chiyuva. According to Ravina, who says kolech l'shliach laben chiyuvin mechayiv sholchay mechayiv sholchay hakanami kivin the lav ben chiyuvin inoi mechayiv sholchan, right? Here also, kivan the lav v'nechiyubininu mechayiv sholchan. You be mechayiv what? The one who sent them. You want me to send them. But koloit madiyama what that had a choice, right? They had a choice. They be mechayiv. Like the one that what that you're not about chiyuv, then the one who sent them would be yeshliach lidvara veira. Okay, well then we'll pick it up over here. That's Hashem.
Thank you.